the beginning of 2023, we made a video dissecting the prediction that Portugal's housing bubble was due to collapse. But now we've got some new perspectives saying that this market might just keep on riding high.
So we're here to break it all down for you and ask some experts what they think about all this market growth amidst the housing crisis. I interviewed 3 housing and real estate professionals to see what they could tell us, and boy, did they have a lot to say about all this.
The first thing we wanted to address was the bold market prediction that had been made last year. The housing market in Portugal was claimed to be on the verge of a crash, an economic bubble about to burst. So why hasn't it?
I don't believe there's a housing bubble, and if we actually dive into the data, there's no reason to believe there is.
The simple answer to that is supply and demand. There's still a lot more demand than supply. So as long as that happens, the market won't crash.
We have few properties for sale on the market. We are short, that's for sure. Demand for properties in Portugal is still high. I can say Portugal today is the place of choice for baby boomers, retirees from all over the world. Also for digital nomads, those who can work online or run their business online, among others, right? So we have a really huge demand.
So it seems that the prediction of a crash right around the corner didn't factor in how many people want to live here in Portugal. It really is a market that seems to have massive growth potential. But what exactly makes experts so sure that things are steady?
More than 70% of housing in Portugal are owned. So they're not rentals, okay? So culturally, people like to own their house. And a way to realize if there's a bubble or not is to compare lease prices to housing prices. If you had increase in housing but decrease in leases, that could probably signify that there will be a bubble. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing an increase, now slower, but we see an increase in housing to sell, but also an increase in if you want to lease an apartment. So that means there's no bubble going on there.
Market crashes when people default their mortgages, especially when they lose their jobs during an economic crisis, right? So economy in Portugal right now is very strong, as direct investment from all over the world, let's say, has risen a lot, and the banks are much more prepared. Since the 2008 crisis, banks are requesting higher credit scores, more down payment for foreigners, a minimum of 20 to 30%, lower debt to net income ratio, etc. So all these conditions, in my view, make the banks and the economy more solid, right? So labor market is still fine, so I think we're doing good.
Positive economic signs like this really do seem to paint a pretty picture of housing in Portugal. But are there any potential pitfalls in this ever-expanding market?
A lot of this growth is external, not internal. The internal market, it's not too favorable. Unfortunately, the Portuguese economy has not been keeping up with the outside growth and the outside interest. So from a Portuguese perspective, the market is not favorable at all. However, from an European and the world perspective, the Portuguese lifestyle in the Portuguese market is extremely attractive.
There's not enough housing. Like I said, if you look up apartments to lease, you're not going to find a lot of assets. So there's a lot of demand to lease apartments, not enough supply. Also because there's not a lot of new construction. Most of them are old and used property with very high prices, so the things don't match.
With all this increase in demand and rising rates, it's no surprise that problems like these start to pop up. We asked our experts what needs to be done to help protect people from this housing crisis, and this is what they had to say.
I think we need to triple the number of homes that are being built for the next year. So government could lower taxes for long-term rental contracts, for example, motivating the owners to put more inventory on the market and to the families, right? Government can also lower taxes for new constructions, also motivating new projects, and maybe, in my view, maybe zero taxes for remodeling, refurbishment of old buildings, at least for 5 years until the market finds some balance, right?
I also believe that there should be a lot more control of the real estate market and the real estate mediation. It's kind of the Wild West here when it comes to lack of control. And I believe that one of the reasons that the prices inflated in such way, it was exactly because there is no transparency and no control in this process. And people that come here to buy without knowing the market, it's very easy for them to get misled, and there is absolutely no consequence for that.
The housing issues in Portugal have much more to do with housing policy than the economics, the world economics that we're going through.
Despite these issues, there was a lot of confidence in all three interviews that there is absolutely not a bubble burst in Portugal's future, or indeed a housing bubble at all.
There's not enough housing, okay? If we look at the last 30 years, and we divide it by decades, so let's say 30 years ago, that first decade, 700,000, the second decade, 700 to 800,000, okay? But this last decade, we've seen around 100,000 properties being built. So there's a big lack of new construction. So there's not enough housing.
So banks are very solid on their positions right now. The homework was correctly done by the Portuguese banks. So only a huge and long economic recession like a depression with people losing their jobs and defaulting their mortgages could spark a crisis like that, which I don't see any sign for now.
I think the policies, the bank policies that are being made are exactly to protect the market from bursting and to have the more safe loans from the bank perspective, which means less repossessions. And those are one of the biggest risk factors when it comes to bubble bursting. And like I was saying, the thing that would lead the market to crash right now would be significant decrease in interest. And I am not seeing that happen anytime soon. So my crystal ball prediction is that there is not going to be a bubble burst.
See, now that is always good news to hear.
It really is. All of this seems like quite the boost of confidence in Portugal's market stability, that things are staying strong, even among the difficulties of the housing crisis.
Hopefully we see these positive trends continue and can keep these good predictions coming. But in the meantime, here's a few tips of what our experts think you need to know about buying in the current market.
One advice I would like to give: you should be very careful checking the property documents to see if everything is legal, if it's financeable. Here we have, rural and urban properties, right? So you can only finance urban properties with the banks. Also, if there is any claim on the property, any mortgage, etc. Okay, and look at that, Josh. When you use a mortgage to acquire a property here in Portugal, even remotely using a lawyer, the banks will check all the documents for you. So the bank will never authorize the deed and the loan, of course, if all the documents are not in order. Okay, so free of any claims and mortgages. This is a great advantage, having the bank by your side when buying from abroad.
Be very careful with who you trust. And if you want to make a good purchase and not overpay, I think you should definitely get a buyer's agent, because even though buyer's agents are usually always paid on the side, they are on your side. Because the way that things work here is that usually the people who have the contracts with the sellers, they can represent both the seller and the buyer, but they are getting paid by the seller. So in most of the cases, it will be in their best interest to sell a property at a higher price because they are paid on commission. And that makes perfect sense from a seller perspective.
To be honest, I unpacked a ton of stuff in 3 15 to 20-minute interviews with each guest. And we've posted those full interviews on our Patreon page at patreon.com/expatsEverywhere. Click on the Patreon icon on the screen or in the description section below to head over there. Or if you haven't seen the hard data on the housing bubble burst prediction, click on that video right here. Now let's get moving.
Bye.
Bye.